3 years ago, I was flying from New York to Chicago for work. I was exhausted, stressed, and honestly irritated at everything. The airport was crowded. My flight was delayed. And when I finally boarded the plane, I saw an old man sitting in my seat row. Great. He looked around 70 years old, wrinkled suit, old glasses, tiny paper bag in his lap. At first, he smiled politely at me, but I barely acknowledged him. I just put my headphones on and stared out the window. A few minutes after takeoff, the flight hit turbulence. The old man looked nervous instantly. His hands started shaking slightly. Then quietly he asked, "Do you mind talking for a little while?" I almost said no, but something about his voice stopped me. So I took my headphones off, and for the next 2 hours, he told me his story. His name was Walter. He used to be a school teacher. He'd been married for 42 years, and this flight was the first flight he'd taken alone in decades. I asked why. He looked down at the paper bag in his lap, then softly said, "My wife passed away 6 months ago." Something in my chest tightened immediately. He told me they used to travel together every year. Always Flight 27. Always the same seats. After she died, he promised himself he'd take one final trip alone. To say goodbye properly, he said. For the first time during that flight, I actually looked at him. Really looked at him. And suddenly, he didn't seem annoying anymore. He just looked lonely. Walter smiled while telling stories about his wife. The way she laughed too loud during movies. The way she cried at stupid commercials. The way she held his hand during turbulence because she was terrified of flying. Then suddenly, Walter reached into the paper bag and carefully pulled out a small silver container. My heart sank. It was an urn. "She's still traveling with me," he whispered. I didn't know what to say. For the next hour, we just talked. About life, regret, love. Then right before landing, Walter asked me a question I still think about today. "When was the last time you called someone you loved without needing a reason?" I opened my mouth to answer, but couldn't. Because honestly, I didn't remember. After the plane landed, people rushed to leave like always. But Walter moved slowly. Before leaving, he smiled warmly at me and said, "Don't wait too long to appreciate people. One day you'll wish for one more conversation." Then he walked away into the airport crowd, and I never saw him again. That night, I sat in my car outside my apartment, staring at my phone for almost an hour. Then I called my mum. For no reason. We talked for 2 hours. A week later, I visited my grandfather for the first time in almost a year. And every now and then, I still think about Walter. The old man I almost ignored on Flight 27.